Imagine waking up alone on a spaceship, knowing you'll die there. Then, one day, you decide that instead of dying alone, you'll steal someone else's life, without their consent. This isn't just a love story. It's a psychological nightmare about loneliness, guilt, and a choice that can never be undone. Welcome to the disturbing truth behind passengers. The story begins with the Starship Avalon, a technological marvel on a 120-year voyage from Earth to the distant colony world of Homestead 2. To survive the journey, all 5,000 passengers and crew members are placed in a state of suspended animation inside hibernation pods. They are meant to sleep peacefully, their bodies preserved, for the entire trip, awakening only when they arrive at their new home. 30 years into its journey, the Avalon encounters a dense asteroid field. While its shields are down, the ship collides with a massive cluster of space rocks. The impact is violent, shaking the entire vessel. Although the ship's advanced automated systems immediately begin to repair the external damage, a critical, unseen fault is triggered deep within the hibernation bay. A year later, the door of Pod 1527 hisses open. A man named Jim Preston awakens, violently ill and disoriented, clawing his way out onto the floor. He is a mechanical engineer, a passenger who was supposed to sleep for another 90 years. His body slowly recovers, and he stumbles through the ship's grand concourse, following pre-recorded instructions for newly awakened passengers. He expects to be greeted by the crew. But the vast halls are completely, terrifyingly empty. The ship's cheerful holographic systems address him as if a crowd surrounds him. A stark and lonely contrast to the profound silence. Jim's confusion turns to panic. He searches every deck, every corridor, every lounge. He finds only the silent rows of hibernation pods, thousands of people sleeping peacefully behind glass. He is the only one awake. He tries to access the crew's control deck to understand what happened, but the doors are locked, requiring authorization he does not have. Desperate, he pulls up the ship's navigation data and receives a crushing revelation. The Avalon is still 90 years from Homestead 2. He was awakened decades too early. In a frantic attempt to get help, Jim records a desperate distress message and transmits it to Earth. The ship's computer delivers the final, soul-crushing blow. Due to the immense distance, a reply will take 55 years to arrive. He is completely, utterly stranded, destined to live out his entire life and die alone on this ghost ship. Overwhelmed by despair, he wanders the ship and finds a single other person in the grand bar, an android bartender named Arthur. Arthur is impeccably dressed and can hold a conversation, but he is programmed, without true emotions or understanding of Jim's plight. Jim tries to get a decent meal, but the automated food dispensers only offer him basic, repetitive gruel, a constant reminder of his low-tier passenger status and his hopeless, solitary fate. Jim spends his days trying to fix his own hibernation pod, but the technology is far too advanced and sealed shut. He even attempts to break into the crew's control room, but the doors are impenetrable. Months turn into a full year of absolute solitude. The crushing loneliness and the prospect of dying alone on this empty ship drive him to a moment of utter despair. In a scene of profound anguish, he puts on a spacesuit and stands at the edge of an open airlock, ready to end his life. But at the last second, his survival instinct kicks in, and he staggers back in a panic, collapsing onto the deck. As he lies there, he notices a passenger profile on a nearby screen. It's a woman named Aurora Lane. He is immediately captivated by her. He learns she is a writer from New York, and he spends hours watching her pre-recorded video interviews, listening to her stories, and falling in love with the idea of her. The knowledge that she is sleeping just a few corridors away, so full of life and dreams, becomes an obsession. He now has a face for his loneliness, and a terrible idea begins to form in his mind. He knows it is a monstrous, unforgivable act. For months, Jim wrestles with the moral dilemma, torn between his desperate need for companionship and the understanding that he would be condemning Aurora to the same fate of isolation, robbing her of the future she chose. He argues with the android bartender, Arthur, who can only offer philosophical platitudes about making the best of a hopeless situation. The temptation, however, is too powerful. After a year of complete solitude, Jim makes his fateful decision. He meticulously studies the hibernation pod systems. One day, he goes to Aurora's pod. With a deep breath, he manually overrides the safety protocols and induces a critical malfunction, and the system initiates an emergency revival. Jim flees the bay, consumed by guilt, hiding all evidence of his tampering. When Aurora finally awakens, She goes through the same terrifying, disorienting process Jim did. Jim watches from a distance, pretending to be just as confused. When they finally meet, Aurora is relieved to see another person. She immediately asks where the crew is, assuming they should have woken up first to guide them. Jim lies, telling her that her pod malfunctioned just like his did, and that they seem to be the only ones awake. Aurora goes to the hibernation bay to see for herself, and is horrified to find thousands of people still asleep. Overwhelmed, she retreats, and Jim suggests she rest, telling her they will figure it out tomorrow. The next morning, the stark difference in their situations becomes clear. Aurora, a first-class passenger, has access to luxurious meals from the automated chefs, while Jim has been eating the same bland paste for a year. When she realizes this, she shares her gourmet food with him. She also tries to break into the crew areas, but finds the doors as unbreakable as Jim did. The reality sinks in for both of them. They are truly stranded. Aurora explains she had planned to travel to Homestead 2, live there for a year, write a book about the experience, and then return to Earth on the next ship. A plan now utterly destroyed. To cope, she decides to write her book anyway, and begins interviewing Jim as her first subject. She asks him why he left Earth. Jim tells her he is a mechanic from a blue-collar family, and that on an Earth where everything is already built, he felt he had no purpose. He wanted to go to a new world to build something with his own hands. With their new grim reality accepted, Jim and Aurora begin to build a life together on the Avalon. Aurora asks Jim what they can possibly do on the ship to pass the time. Jim, now far happier with her company, shows her how to enjoy the ship's amenities. They play basketball in zero gravity, dance in the empty concourse, and watch holographic entertainment. They grow closer, becoming first friends and then something more. In a particularly romantic gesture, Jim uses the ship's 3D fabricator to create a real, living rose for Aurora, a symbol of life in their metallic world. Their bond deepens during a breathtaking celestial event. The Avalon passes close to a flaming red giant star, and they watch the cosmic spectacle from the ship's observation deck, a moment of shared awe and beauty. For Aurora's birthday, Jim even arranges a special dinner. He is so in love that he contemplates proposing to her with a ring he has made. But his secret is a poison between them, and it is the android bartender, Arthur, who accidentally spills it. During a casual conversation, Arthur, unaware of the lie's significance, mentions to Aurora that Jim came to him for advice about waking someone up a year ago. The truth hits Aurora like a physical blow. The man she trusted and fell in love with is the one who condemned her to this life. Her love instantly curdles into pure, unadulterated hatred. She stops speaking to Jim entirely. One night, in a blind rage, she storms into his room while he sleeps, grabs a heavy wrench, and raises it to kill him. But at the last moment, she cannot bring herself to do it, hurling the wrench at the wall instead and collapsing in sobs. The next morning, Jim tries to apologize, explaining his year of soul-crushing loneliness and madness. He pleads that he had no other choice, but Aurora screams at him that he did have a choice. He could have endured his suffering alone instead of forcing it upon her. Their relationship is shattered. Jim now lives in exile within the ship, avoiding Aurora at all costs. One night, he notices the ship's systems flicker and glitch strangely, but the problem seems to resolve itself, and he dismisses it. To cope with his guilt, he throws himself into a project, using the ship's advanced fabrication systems to build a beautiful, wooden cottage-style porch with a real tree, creating a small piece of Earth on the starship. Meanwhile, strange malfunctions begin to plague the Avalon. The next day, as Jim is coming down in an elevator, it suddenly jolts and fails, nearly crushing him. At the same moment, Aurora's food dispenser malfunctions, spraying her meal everywhere. They are both baffled and alarmed by these coinciding failures. Then they hear a voice. Following the sound to Jim's newly grown tree, they are stunned to find a man in a crew uniform standing under the tree. It is Chief Deck Officer 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. They rush to him. Gus is disoriented and confused, immediately asking where the rest of the crew is. Jim and Aurora explain that they are the only ones awake. Gus, with his high-level crew access, is their first hope. He insists on going to the control room immediately to diagnose what is wrong with the ship. With his crew credentials, Gus accesses the ship's diagnostic systems in the control room. But the computer's reports are confusing and don't pinpoint a single root cause. The malfunctions seem random and widespread. As they are leaving the control room, a heavy service robot falls from the ceiling, nearly crushing them. Gus identifies it as a 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 maintenance droid, and its catastrophic failure is a sign of deep systemic decay. He then accesses the hibernation bay logs, and the truth about Aurora's awakening is laid bare on the screen for all to see. Gus confronts Jim, who confesses everything, explaining his year of unbearable loneliness. Gus, a seasoned officer who understands the psychological torture of deep space isolation, doesn't condone the act, but he does understand it. He doesn't punish Jim. Aurora is furious at Gus's leniency and asks what he would have done if it were his pod that was sabotaged. Gus, with profound weariness, tells her that in the face of such hopelessness, it's impossible to judge what a person might do to survive. He then reveals his own grim truth. His health is rapidly failing. He begins coughing up blood. The ship's medical bay scans him and delivers a horrifying diagnosis. His body is ravaged by 612 different failures. His hibernation pod malfunctioned during the asteroid strike years ago, but instead of waking him, it slowly poisoned him while he slept, damaging his tissues irreparably. He is dying, and it will happen within hours. Knowing his time is up, Gus performs his final duty. He gives Jim and Aurora his crew access band, granting them full control of the ship. His last words are a plea for them to take care of each other. And then he passes away. Jim and Aurora give him a somber funeral, releasing his body into the void of space. Now, with full access, they can finally address the ship's escalating failures. They go to the engine room and discover a nightmare. The ship's power core, a massive fusion reactor, is critically unstable. The containment field is failing, and superheated plasma is burning through multiple decks. If it breaches the reactor chamber, it will destroy the entire ship. They have to manually release the built-up pressure through an external exhaust vent. Jim puts on a spacesuit and goes outside the ship onto the hull, heading for the manual override for the vent door. Inside, Aurora operates the controls. The temperature around the reactor is becoming deadly. Jim reaches the manual lever and pulls it. The massive vent door grinds open, but as soon as he releases the lever, it slams shut again. Jim realizes the hydraulic mechanism is destroyed. The door will only stay open if someone manually holds the lever in place. This means whoever stays outside will be directly in the path of the scorching plasma blast when it vents. Back inside, Aurora sees the reading spike. The core is about to explode. Jim shouts over the radio for her to hit the release, knowing what it will mean for him. Aurora hesitates, but the survival of everyone on board is at stake. With tears in her eyes, she activates the emergency purge. Outside, Jim braces himself as he forces the lever and holds it. A torrent of white-hot plasma erupts from the vent, engulfing him completely. Aurora, inside the ship, watches in horror as the plasma torrent completely envelops Jim's position. When the purge is complete, the ship's systems stabilize, but Jim is gone, ripped away by the force of the blast. His safety tether has snapped, and he is adrift in the freezing vacuum of space, his spacesuit compromised and leaking oxygen. Aurora doesn't hesitate. She grabs a rescue tether and a thruster pack, dons a spacesuit, and launches herself out of an airlock to find him. She spots him floating further and further away, a tiny speck against the infinite black. Using her thrusters, she desperately tries to reach him, but she is running out of cable. Their fingertips almost touch, but slip apart. Aurora is forced to stop, believing she has lost him forever, and begins to sob inside her helmet. But then she sees it. The rescue tether Jim had been holding, its end still floating in space. She grabs it and pulls with all her strength, reeling Jim's unconscious body back to her. She gets him inside the ship and rushes him to the medical bay. The automated diagnostic system scans his severely burned and frozen body and declares him deceased. But Aurora refuses to accept this. She overrides the system's protocols, commanding it to use every available resource and perform every possible life-saving procedure simultaneously. The medical pod goes to work in a frantic symphony of lights and instruments. For a long, agonizing moment, there is no change. Then Jim's eyes flutter open. He is alive. In the aftermath, Jim and Aurora work together as a team, using Gus's access to fully repair the Avalon and restore all its systems. The crisis has bridged the chasm between them. With the ship now secure, they discover another function of the medical bay. One of them could be placed back into hibernation, using the doctor's pod, to sleep the remaining decades to Homestead 2. Jim insists that Aurora take it. He tells her this is her chance to have the life she was supposed to have, to wake up at their destination and write her book. He has already stolen one future from her. He will not steal another. But Aurora looks at him, and at the life they have built together amidst the stars. She makes her choice. She declines the pod. She chooses to stay awake with him. Jim, moved beyond words, gives her the wedding ring he made long ago. She accepts it. The movie then flashes forward 88 years. The Avalon finally arrives at Homestead 2. The crew and passengers awaken and emerge onto the ship's grand concourse. They find it transformed into a lush, vibrant forest, filled with trees and plants. We see that Jim and Aurora used their decades together to turn the ship into a beautiful garden, a testament to the life they built. The final shot suggests they lived a full and long life together on the Avalon, leaving a living legacy for the new colonists, and their story ends there, amidst the trees they planted. On IMDb, the film has an average rating of 7.0 out of 10, based on over 488,000 viewer ratings. We hope you enjoyed this movie explanation. If you did, please share it with your movie lover friends and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want a recap of your favorite movie, comment the movie name below. Thank you for watching.